The massive diplomatic ship glided through the starry void, its sleek silver hull reflecting distant pinpoints of light. Hyun-Ki Park stood near the observation deck, his fingers tracing the cool glass surface as he watched the endless darkness. At 28, he was the youngest diplomatic representative from Earth's Interstellar Relations Department, chosen for this critical mission because of his unique ability to remain calm under pressure. The Kairos civilization had been a mystery to humans for decades. Their technology was advanced, their culture complex, and their diplomatic protocols nearly incomprehensible. Most human representatives had failed to establish meaningful communication, returning with nothing more than frustration and confused reports. As the ship approached the neutral meeting station, Hyun-Ki adjusted his crisp blue uniform. He knew everything depended on the next few hours. Trade agreements, potential colonization rights, and the future of human-Kairos relations balanced on his shoulders. The reception hall was a massive circular chamber with walls that seemed to shift between metallic silver and soft blue. Delegates from various star systems moved like carefully choreographed dancers, each representing their civilization's hopes and fears. Hyun-Ki noticed how some species avoided each other, while others engaged in intense, whispered conversations. Near, the far end of the hall, almost blending into the background, stood a woman who seemed deliberately unremarkable. Her dark hair was pulled back simply, her clothing a neutral gray that made her almost invisible among the more colorful delegates. While others wore elaborate traditional attire showcasing their civilization's wealth and status, she appeared purposefully plain. Hyun-Ki's training had taught him to notice details others might miss. Something about her stillness caught his attention. Unlike other delegates who moved with either aggressive confidence or nervous energy, she remained completely composed, her eyes quietly observing everything. The Kairos ambassador, a tall figure, with skin that seemed to shimmer between solid and transparent, began the formal introductions. Protocols were complex, with each civilization required to present their primary and secondary representatives. When the ambassador gestured toward the woman, he simply said, "My daughter, Yoonji." Most delegates barely glanced her way. Hyun-Ki, however, noticed a subtle intelligence in her eyes. She wasn't just listening, she was analyzing every interaction, every subtle movement in the room. During a brief break in negotiations, diplomatic protocol allowed for limited personal interactions. Hyun-Ki found himself standing near Yoonji, intentionally creating an opportunity for conversation. "Interesting gathering," he said quietly, using the universal diplomatic greeting. Yoonji's response was measured. Interesting is one way to describe it. Complicated might be more accurate. Her English was perfect with no trace of an accent. Her voice was soft but carried an unexpected depth that suggested multiple layers of meaning. Hyun-Ki realized quickly that this was no ordinary diplomatic interaction. Something about Yoonji was different. She didn't seek attention, yet her presence was subtly powerful. While other delegates competed for visibility, she seemed content to observe and understand. As the first day of negotiations concluded, Hyun-Ki couldn't shake the feeling that Yoonji was far more significant than she appeared. The Kairos delegation moved with a precision that suggested deep, hidden strategies, and she was at the center of it, quietly watching. The diplomatic mission had only just begun, but Hyun-Ki knew something extraordinary was brewing. The seemingly plain daughter of the Kairos ambassador would play a role far beyond what anyone expected. As station lights dimmed and delegates retreated to their respective quarters, Hyun-Ki looked back one more time. Yoonji stood alone, her reflection against the starry window creating a moment of unexpected beauty, a silent promise of mysteries yet to unfold. Little did he know how dramatically their paths would soon intertwine, how their unexpected encounter would reshape the future of two entire civilizations. The diplomatic station hummed with quiet tension. Hyun-Ki found himself assigned to a series of joint working sessions with the Kairos delegation, which meant spending more time near Yoonji. Their initial interactions were professional, almost mechanical, brief exchanges of technical information, carefully measured responses that revealed nothing personal. During one extended meeting, a complex trade negotiation began to unravel. Representatives from 3 different star systems argued about resource allocation, their voices rising with increasing frustration. Most diplomats would have pushed harder, trying to dominate the conversation. Yunji did something unexpected. She remained silent, watching the heated discussion. Then, with a slight movement of her hand, she passed a data tablet to Hyun-ki. On the screen was a complex mathematical model that perfectly balanced the competing claims. Her solution was elegant, almost mathematical in its simplicity. Hyun-ki studied the proposal. It wasn't just a compromise. It was a complete reimagining of the resource distribution that satisfied every party's core requirements. When he looked up, Yunji was already moving away, as if she hadn't just potentially solved an impossible diplomatic problem. Their interactions grew more complex. During meal breaks, they would occasionally sit near each other. Yunji would make observations about the other delegates that were both precise and slightly humorous. Her ability to read people was remarkable. She could describe the hidden motivations of diplomats with just a few carefully chosen words. Hyun-ki discovered that Yunji's family held a unique position within Kairos society. They were respected, but kept at a careful distance. Something about their background seemed deliberately obscured, like a puzzle with missing pieces. One evening during a formal reception, a minor diplomatic incident threatened to escalate. A representative from a mineral-rich planet had accidentally insulted another delegate's cultural practices. The room grew tense, with various species taking sides. Yunji approached the situation like a chess player, quietly moving between groups, whispering something to key individuals. Within minutes, the potential conflict dissolved. The offended parties were laughing, sharing drinks, as if nothing had happened. Hyun-ki watched in amazement. She had diffused the situation without anyone realizing how. Their conversations became more personal, though still carefully controlled. Yunji spoke about her training, about the complex expectations placed on Kairos diplomatic families. Hyun-ki shared stories about his own journey, his dreams of creating meaningful connections between different civilizations. Something was developing between them. Not a romantic connection, but a partnership of understanding. They complemented each other in ways neither fully comprehended. Where Hyun-ki was direct and passionate, Yunji was calculated and subtle. The diplomatic arrangement that would legally bind them together seemed like a mere political formality. Most saw it as a strategic move, a way to create a stronger connection between Earth and the Kairos civilization. But Hyun-ki sensed something deeper was happening. During a private briefing, Yunji revealed small pieces of her background. Her family had a history of unusual diplomatic achievements. They were problem solvers, individuals who could see solutions where others saw only conflict. But they were also kept at a careful distance by their own civilization. "We are useful," she told Hyun-ki one evening, "but not always comfortable to be around." Her words carried multiple layers of meaning. Hyun-ki understood that she was talking about more than just her family. She was describing herself. As weeks passed, their partnership grew stronger. They began to anticipate each other's thoughts, to communicate with subtle glances and minimal words. The other diplomats started to notice something different about them, a connection that went beyond typical professional relationships. The political arrangement that had initially seemed like a simple diplomatic strategy was becoming something much more complex. Hyun-ki realized that Yunji was far more than the plain daughter everyone believed her to be. Something significant was brewing, a partnership that would soon change everything they understood about diplomacy, about connection, about the possibilities of understanding between different civilizations. The star system was burning. Diplomatic tensions had reached a breaking point, with 3 major civilizations on the brink of total war. Massive battleships positioned themselves at strategic points, weapon systems charged and ready. Most senior diplomats looked defeated. Their negotiations collapsed into silent despair. Hyun-ki watched Yunji during the crisis meeting. While other representatives argued and shouted, she remained completely calm. Her fingers moved silently across a holographic interface, creating complex data models that most people couldn't even comprehend. The conflict centered around a resource-rich planetary system near the galactic border. Each civilization claimed historical rights, presenting evidence that contradicted the others. Centuries of misunderstandings, cultural tensions, and territorial disputes had built up to this moment. Senior diplomats from Earth, the Centauri Confederation, and the Meridian Alliance had spent weeks trying to find a solution. Their best minds had failed. Military commanders were preparing for what seemed like an inevitable conflict that would destroy millions of lives. Yunji stood quietly, her gray diplomatic uniform revealing nothing about her internal thoughts. When she finally spoke, the entire room fell silent. Her voice was soft but carried a strange intensity that made everyone listen. "The problem isn't the resources," she said. "The problem is how we define ownership." She began presenting a solution that was both shocking and brilliant. Using a combination of historical data, economic projections, and cultural analysis, she proposed a completely new model of resource sharing. Her solution wasn't a compromise. It was a total reimagining of interstellar resource management. Yunki watched in amazement. Each point she made dismantled previous arguments. She revealed hidden connections between the civilization's histories, showed economic benefits that no one had previously considered. Her presentation wasn't just diplomatic. It was a work of complex problem-solving that bordered on genius. The military commanders looked confused. Diplomatic representatives seemed stunned. What Yunji was proposing went beyond typical negotiation strategies. She was literally rewriting the rules of interstellar cooperation. As she spoke, Hyun-Ki noticed something strange happening. The holographic displays around her seemed to respond to her movements, adapting and changing in ways that shouldn't be possible. Her data models were alive, shifting and evolving with her explanations. Most delegates saw Yunji as a simple diplomatic assistant, but Hyun-Ki was beginning to understand that she was something entirely different. Her ability to analyze complex systems went far beyond typical human or alien capabilities. The meeting lasted hours. By the end, the three civilizations that had been ready to destroy each other were now discussing cooperative research programs. Yunji had transformed a potential war into an opportunity for collaboration. After the meeting, Hyun-Ki approached her. "How did you do that?" he asked quietly. Yunji simply smiled. "Some problems look complex from the outside," she said. "But when you understand the underlying systems, solutions become simple." Her words carried a deeper meaning. Hyun-Ki realized she was talking about more than just diplomatic negotiations. She was describing a fundamental way of understanding complex systems. Later reports would show that Eunji's solution would save trillions of resources, prevent potential conflicts, and create new pathways for interstellar cooperation. What had seemed impossible just hours earlier was now a new reality. The other diplomats looked at her with new respect. But Hyun-Ki noticed something else. A subtle nervousness. As if her capabilities made people uncomfortable. They appreciated her solution, but they didn't fully understand her. That evening, as diplomatic ships prepared to depart, Hyun-Ki understood that Yunji was far more than she appeared. The plain daughter of a diplomatic family had just changed the course of interstellar history. And this was just the beginning. The stars outside seemed to shimmer with new possibilities, reflecting the extraordinary potential of one remarkable individual who had been overlooked for far too long. The alarm systems across the diplomatic station suddenly went silent. Emergency lights flickered, then died completely. In the darkness, something was changing. Hyun-Ki felt it first, a strange vibration that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Yunji stood perfectly still, her body beginning to emit a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Around her, reality itself seemed to bend and shift. Massive energy signals were detected across multiple star systems. Earth's defense networks went into high alert. Something unprecedented was happening, and Yunji was at the center of it. Her genetic background, carefully hidden for years, was now revealing its true nature. What everyone had considered a simple diplomatic family secret was actually something far more extraordinary. Yoonji wasn't just a diplomat. She was a living communication system, a biological interface capable of processing complex information beyond human comprehension. The Kairos civilization had been protecting her for generations. She was a rare, genetic variation, a living solution to complex interstellar problems. Her body could analyze and resolve conflicts at a molecular level, adapting systems faster than any computer could process. Hyun-ki watched in amazement as she began to transform. Her body became translucent, data streams flowing around her like living electricity. Mathematical equations and cultural information danced across her skin, creating complex patterns that told stories of civilizations long forgotten. A massive threat was approaching the diplomatic station, an adaptive technological weapon that had destroyed 3 previous star systems. Traditional defense systems were useless against its constantly changing attack patterns. Military commanders were preparing for total evacuation. Yoonji became the solution. Her body began to interface directly with the station systems. She wasn't just defending, she was communicating with the incoming threat, understanding its fundamental structure. Where others saw destruction, she saw a complex system waiting to be balanced. Hyun-ki realized their marriage was more than a political arrangement. It was a strategic combination. His human adaptability combined with her extraordinary genetic capabilities. Together they represented something entirely new. The weapon approaching the station was unlike anything encountered before. It could adapt, learn, and destroy entire planetary systems in moments. Standard communication or defense protocols were ineffective. But Yoonji was different. She began to communicate with the weapon in a language beyond human understanding. Her body became a bridge between technological systems, finding connection where others saw only conflict. The weapon's attack patterns started to slow, then change. What seemed like an impossible threat was being transformed into a potential communication opportunity. Military commanders watched in shock. Their most advanced weapon systems had been prepared to fight. Yoonji was choosing to understand instead. Hours passed. The threat that could have destroyed multiple star systems was being carefully negotiated, its fundamental purpose being rewritten. Yoonji's capabilities went beyond fighting. She could fundamentally restructure complex systems. Hyun-ki understood now why her family had kept her hidden. She wasn't just a diplomat or a weapon. She was a living solution to complex interstellar challenges. Her genetic structure could communicate, adapt, and resolve conflicts at a level no technology could match. As the transformation completed, the station returned to normal, but nothing would ever be the same. Yoonji had just demonstrated capabilities that would change how civilizations understood communication, conflict, and connection. The stars outside seemed to pulse with new possibilities. A quiet revolution had just occurred, led by someone everyone had previously considered ordinary. Hyun-ki looked at his wife, no longer just a diplomatic partner, but a living bridge between civilizations. Their unexpected partnership had become something miraculous. The Kairos High Council chamber was silent. Representatives from hundreds of star systems watched as Hyun-ki and Yoonji stood at the center, their connection now visible to everyone. What had begun as a simple diplomatic arrangement had transformed into something revolutionary. Their partnership had prevented 3 potential wars, restructured resource distribution across multiple star systems, and created new models of interstellar communication. Yoonji's genetic capabilities, once a closely guarded secret, were now recognized as a breakthrough in diplomatic problem-solving. Her ability to interface with complex systems had changed everything humans in Kairos understood about conflict resolution. The Council's eldest member, a being who had watched civilizations rise and fall, spoke first. "You have done what generations of diplomats could not," he said, looking directly at Yoonji. "You have shown that understanding is more powerful than conflict." Hyun-ki remembered their journey. From that first awkward diplomatic meeting to this moment, they had created something unprecedented. Their marriage was more than a personal connection. It was a living bridge between civilizations. Reports were already spreading across communication networks. Their approach had solved problems that seemed impossible. Economic models were being rewritten. Diplomatic protocols were being redesigned based on their unique method of communication and problem-solving. The Kairos civilization, once seen as mysterious and distant, was now opening up. Yunji had become a symbol of a new kind of diplomatic approach, one that valued understanding over competition. During the ceremony, holographic displays showed the impact of their work. Entire star systems that had been on the brink of conflict were now developing joint research programs. Economic barriers were dissolving. Cultural exchanges were happening at unprecedented levels. Hyun-Ki noticed how Yunji remained calm. She didn't celebrate or show excitement. Instead, she was already analyzing the next set of challenges, her mind working on solutions that others couldn't even imagine. The council presented them with a unique diplomatic designation, something that had never existed before. They were no longer just representatives of their respective civilizations. They were bridge builders, system designers, a new kind of diplomatic entity. As the ceremony concluded, multiple communication channels lit up. Messages from different star systems congratulated them, requesting their intervention in various conflicts and challenges. Their quarters on the diplomatic station became a center of innovation. Scientists, diplomats, and cultural experts from multiple civilizations began to study their unique approach. How had they managed to resolve conflicts that seemed impossible? Yunji explained it simply. Every system has a balance, she would say. You just need to understand its fundamental language. Hyun-Ki had become her translator, her human interface. Where she saw complex mathematical possibilities, he provided the emotional and cultural context. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. The universe was changing. Old barriers of species, culture, and economic competition were being reimagined. What had once seemed like insurmountable differences were now opportunities for collaboration. Their personal relationship had become a metaphor for larger possibilities. A human and a Kairos, brought together by a diplomatic arrangement, had created something entirely new. As they looked out at the vast, starry expanse, they understood that their journey was just beginning. Each solved conflict, each restructured system was another step toward a more connected universe. The diplomatic station continued its slow orbit, a symbol of new possibilities. Hyun-Ki held Yunji's hand, understanding that their partnership was more than a personal connection. It was a blueprint for a different kind of future. Outside, stars continued their ancient dance, but something had changed. The universe felt different, more connected, more hopeful.